Last year in fantasy drafts, decisions like CeeDee Lamb or Stephon Diggs, Tony Pollard or Jahmyr Gibbs, even Dak or Tua made a huge difference in the outcome of your fantasy team. Well, guess what? There are going to be decisions like that again this year, but this time you're going to get them right. Here are 5 players I'm avoiding where they're being drafted and 5 players in the same range I'm taking instead. Now, if you're thinking it's May, how can you be drafting? Well, then you need to check out Underdog Fantasy. Underdog Fantasy has best ball drafts going full swing right now all the way up until the season. They have drafts ranging from $4 to $500 with prize pools ranging from $100,000 to $15 million. That's right, $15 million in their flagship Best Ball Mania 5. If you haven't tried Underdog Fantasy yet, this is the time to do it. Just make sure when you sign up, you use our promo code ENDGAME and take advantage of this special offer. They're going to give you a special pick plus up to $250 in bonus cash. Go to UnderdogFantasy.com, sign up using promo code ENDGAME, start drafting right now, and take advantage of this special offer. When you get to round 3 of fantasy drafts, there's a lot of wide receivers you can choose from. And right now, DJ Moore is going ahead of Michael Pittman, and I don't understand why. Look, last year, we were all over DJ Moore. We loved him. He was great. He was the clear wide receiver 1 in Chicago. That's not the case anymore. Yes, he's probably still the wide receiver 1, but they went out and signed Keenan Allen, and they drafted Rome Odunze, who's one of the most polished wide receiver prospects ready to come in day one and make an impact. And they also have a rookie quarterback in Caleb Williams. It's hard for me to imagine all 3 of these guys being great. They're going to eat into each other's production, so why take DJ Moore here when you can get Michael Pittman? Now, I know the Colts, you look at the Colts, you say, well, they have Josh Downs and they just drafted A.D. Mitchell. You're right. I like A.D. Mitchell. He's nowhere near the prospect that Rome Odunze is. He's going to take a while to get going. Josh Downs, just a slot wide receiver. Not worried about him at all. Michael Pittman will still be the clear number 1 alpha wide receiver in this offense. And when you look at it last year, he averaged over 15 points per game despite scoring only 4 touchdowns. That's because Gardner Minshew was the QB. This offense was terrible. With a healthy Anthony Richardson able to move the ball up and down the field, this offense will be better. There will be more chances for Pittman to score. And unlike DJ Moore, who has to compete with 2 other very good receivers, Michael Pittman is just competing with a rookie who's going to take some time and a slot wide receiver who I do think is good, but not on the level of Keenan Allen or Rome Odunze. Now we move down a couple rounds to round 5, and you'll see 2 Chiefs receivers being drafted very closely. That's rookie Xavier Worthy and veteran Marquise Brown. Now the 3rd Chiefs wide receiver, Rashee Rice, is being drafted much later, but that makes sense because he's probably facing a suspension to start the year. So let's just focus on these 2 guys. For some reason right now, Xavier Worthy is going about 5 spots ahead of Marquise Brown. I don't understand why. Look, I'm not anti-Xavier Worthy. I think Xavier Worthy can be good. There's a couple things to be worried about here. Number 1, he's a rookie. And again, not like a Marvin Harrison, Malik Neighbors, Rome Odunze. He's not going to come in and just instantly be an impact maker. Number 2, he's only going to play the slot. That really needs to be his role in the NFL. He's only 164 pounds. You can't stick this guy on the outside against tough corners. He'll get demolished. And number 3, when you look at the Chiefs and wide receivers, it takes wide receivers a while to get going. Even Rashee Rice took a while to get going last year. This is not an easy playbook. This is not an easy offense to master. Hollywood Brown is a veteran wide receiver. He's had 1,000 yards in the NFL. He's done it against NFL corners. He'll be able to pick up on the offense better. And if Rashee Rice is actually suspended to start the season and they're easing Xavier Worthy into this offense, Marquise Brown is going to be the number 1 wide receiver, and he's going to have a chance to build that connection with Patrick Mahomes while Xavier Worthy gets up to speed. Now look, I like Worthy in Dynasty. I get the upside here, right? This is a guy that can hit a home run any single game. But Hollywood Brown is going to be the guy that's going to get the most targets, be the number 1 receiver, be the more dependable guy. So let somebody else draft the hype of Xavier Worthy. Go ahead, take Hollywood Brown. I think in the end, you'll be happy you did. Now let's move down a round or 2 and we get a couple tight ends going here, and that's George Kittle and Evan Engram. And I'm going to say pass on George Kittle and just take Evan Engram later. Over the last 2 years, George Kittle has been the tight end 2 and the tight end 6, which is great. But Evan Ingram's been the tight end 7 and the tight end 4, which is also great ever since he's gotten to Jacksonville. And when you look at these 2 guys, yes, George Kittle's numbers look good over the season, but he's usually inflated by 1 or 2 games where he scored 2 or 3 touchdowns, and the rest of the season, he's just kind of okay. When you look over that stretch, George Kittle has only finished as a top 10 tight end in 13 of those games. Evan Ingram's been top 10 in 18 of those games. And remember, Evan Engram came to Jacksonville 2 years ago, and and had to get used to the offense and the system. When you look at the second half of 2 years ago and basically all of last year, Evan Engram has mostly been better than George Kittle. And why would that change this year? Yes, Jacksonville did draft Brian Thomas Jr., but this isn't Calvin Ridley. This isn't a guy that's ready to come in right away and take targets. Again, he's a rookie. A lot of rookies are going to need time to get acclimated, to get up to speed. Not every rookie can come in and just be Puka Nacua from day one or Justin Jefferson. Most rookies need time. So with the loss of Calvin Ridley and the only addition really being Gabe Davis and a rookie Brian Thomas Jr., Evan Engram should once again be a focal point of this offense. Whereas when you look at Kittle, you still got Brandon Ayuk there. You still got Debo there. It doesn't sound like they're getting traded. Not to mention, you still got CMC out of the backfield. Way more mouths to feed here. Give me Evan Engram about a round later than George Kittle. He's been honestly better than George Kittle on a week-to-week basis, and I bet he will be again this year. Moving down a little bit lower, I have not forgotten about running backs. We see two running backs who feel very similar going in the same range here around like round 7, round 8-ish, maybe round 9, depending on the league, and that is David Montgomery and Zamir White. Neither of these guys are going to be what you consider a prolific pass-catching back. They're not burners who are going to rip off, 40, 50, 60-yard touchdown runs. They're kind of guys who are good, grinding running backs who have touchdown upside, except one guy is the lead back and the other guy isn't. Look, last year to start the season, yes, David Montgomery was the lead back because Jahmyr Gibbs was a rookie. And as I've talked about with a couple rookies now, teams usually ease rookies in. This year, though, it's going to be full go for Jahmyr Gibbs. When you look at down the stretch last year and including the NFL playoffs, Jahmyr Gibbs was getting not only more of the run, but more of the important run, more of the crucial downs. David Montgomery is still going to be involved, sure, and he's still going to score his handful of touchdowns or whatever he gets. But Zamir White is locked into a workhorse role here. All the Raiders have done this year is sign Alexander Mattison, who I hope we're all ready to admit is barely even an NFL level running back. And then they drafted Dylan Lobb from New Hampshire, who, yeah, he was prolific in college, but he was prolific at New Hampshire. He didn't play anybody. This is going to be Zamir White's backfield, and when you look at the 4 games last year that he started after the Josh Jacobs injury, he had 17 carries, 20 carries, 22 carries, and 25 carries, and he went for at least 85 yards in all of those games and over 100 yards in 3 of those games. And Raiders head coach Antonio Pierce doesn't even hide the fact he wants to run the football. They drafted a tight end, no, not a blocking tight end, but they drafted a tight end. They haven't really done anything at wide receiver or at quarterback, to be honest. This is going to be a team that's going to rely on the running game as much as possible. Zamir White going to be looking at 20-plus carries on most weeks this season. And with that kind of volume, you have to take him over David Montgomery in this range. And then finally, when you get to about round 9, let's look at a couple of veteran wide receivers, DeAndre Hopkins and Deontay Johnson. I honestly don't even know why DeAndre Hopkins is still being drafted. This is just pure name value. Sure, last year he had some nice games, like 3 of them. The rest of the time he was pretty terrible. Now, Deontay Johnson was also terrible, but that's because he was stuck in Pittsburgh. Now, when you look at the situations this year, both guys going into this year with second-year quarterbacks, but one guy is having to compete with targets against Calvin Ridley, Tyler Boyd, maybe Treylon Burks, I don't even know, who cares, while the other guy is competing with Adam Thielen, rookie Xavier Leggett, Jonathan Mingo. I mean, that's no comparison here. Deontay Johnson is head and shoulders better than all the wide receivers on the Panthers roster. And when you look at these second-year QBs, yes, I like Levis. I think Levis has a chance to be better in year 2. But one guy was the number 1 pick last year, and the other guy wasn't. If I had to put money on who's going to make a leap this year, it's going to be Bryce Young. Not to mention, they brought Dave Canales in from the Bucs, who revived Baker Mayfield, basically saved his career. Why can't he do it with Bryce Young? DeAndre Hopkins is just going to be what he is at this point. Pretty much going to do almost nothing most weeks. Every now and then maybe he'll score a touchdown or have some random 100-yard game, but that's it. Deontay Johnson is going to get peppered with targets in this offense. He's going to be a volume monster. I doubt he scores less touchdowns than DeAndre Hopkins. Neither of these guys are probably going to score a ton. So give me the guy who's going to get all the volume in this offense, and it's going to help me week in and week out rather than just a few times during the season. So those are 5 players I'm avoiding and 5 I'm drafting instead. But if you want to see some guys you cannot ignore any longer in fantasy football, check out this video right here.